Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us. I'm Danita Morgan, a Development Director for UNC Lineberger Comprehensive Cancer Center, and we're looking forward to spending the next hour with you. Today's program is part of a week of virtual virtual events offered by the UNC Health Foundation to say thank you to you, our supporters. So far, we've had a mindful meditation, a webinar on the aging brain, and last night, a cooking demonstration. This week is called Gratitude Heals, a week of thanks. And it's a time for our supporters to take a break from their busy lives and for the foundation to show you our heartfelt gratitude for being a partner in our work. I want to personally thank each of you for your generous support, especially this year. So much has changed in the past 10 months, but UNC Lineberger's commitment to our patients and their families remains the same. With your help, we continue to provide top-flight patient care and research that leads to life-saving cancer treatment. And in 2020, UNC Lineberger received the highest possible rating from the National Cancer Institute, exceptional. We received it for the third time, and we are one of only 5 cancer centers to receive this top rating 3 times in a row. Today's program is the most popular webinar of this week. We have guests from Pennsylvania and in North Carolina from Arden to Pine Tops. During the program, please feel free to ask questions using the chat feature, and our speakers will answer your questions after the presentation. And now let's hear a little bit about our speakers. Back in April, just as we were beginning to learn how we would live with COVID, our UNC physicians knew they needed expert advice to cope with the pandemic personally and professionally, and to help their patients cope. And they turned to Dr. Don Rosenstein to lead a webinar, Coping with Coronavirus. At UNC, Dr. Rosenstein is a professor, the director of the Comprehensive Cancer Support Program, and vice chair of General Hospital Psychiatry. Nationally, he's a past president of the American Psychosocial Oncology Society, a past president of the Academy of Consultation Liaison Psychiatry, and he has received the National Institute of Mental Health's Director's Career Award for significant scientific achievement. Don grew up near Chicago, and he and his wife live in Chapel Hill. Music, photography, and woodworking have helped him cope in this unusual year. Dr. Rosenstein is a valued colleague and leader at UNC Lineberger. I am honored to work with him and his team to secure funding for the Comprehensive Cancer Support Program, which we'll learn more about today. When UNC Lineberger wants to honor its most generous donors with unique gifts, we turn to Elaine O'Neil. She is a textile collage artist and an amazing friend to UNC Lineberger and the North Carolina Cancer Hospital. Her art connects us to the places we love and the experiences we cherish. You may have seen her creations in an installation at the Cancer Hospital or on her beautiful calendars, which have benefited the Cancer Hospital for the past 10 years. Or perhaps you shared her art as you read Goodnight Carolina to your children or grandchildren. Elaine grew up in Maine and is a graduate of the University of Wyoming and the Philadelphia College of Textiles and Science. She and her husband live in Hillsborough, and her studio is located there as well. We're so glad to have both Dawn and Elaine with us today. And Dr. Rosenstein, will you kick us off and share how you're doing during COVID and what has helped you cope during this really unusual year?
Thank you so much, Danita. It is a great pleasure for me to be here. And I have to say, I am seriously tickled that I am in the company of Elaine O'Neil, a serious and an acclaimed artist. I am a weekend warrior with respect to my woodworking passion. I'm going to show you a couple of pictures in a minute as a way to introduce this idea. But this is, when I was first asked to be part of this, I was really excited about it because I really do think that there is a central and important message about how we find relief, release, artistic expression, just some kind of stepping out of what this year has been like for all of us, which has just been so unimaginable. And so I'm really excited to be part of this. And let me just tell you a little bit, before I tell you about the Comprehensive Cancer Support Program, for those of you who don't know about it, let me indulge myself, I hope, not too long, in a reflection on what kind of woodworking is meant to me during this. So as you just heard, I'm a psychiatrist by training, which means that my days are spent with words and thoughts and feelings and hopes and fears and things that are very important and very real, but not the least bit tangible. And so for whatever reason, years ago, I just found myself wanting to make things that I could feel, that I could touch, that I could hold, that were enduring, that I could look at. And so I started dabbling in woodworking, and I'm going to share a screen for a minute. So see if I can get this right. And if someone could give me a thumbs up, if you can see that screen, beautiful. So this is a sampling, just of a few pictures of projects that came out of the shop, from the sublime to the ridiculous. And it's really my happy place when I go down into the shop. And like many of you, if I'm not in the hospital, I spend an awful lot of time looking at my computer. And what was really life-saving for me for a good part of this year was being able to go downstairs and make something. And whether it was literally just planning a project with a blank piece of paper, or straightening up, on occasion, demolition did the trick. If I had kind of some old project that had fallen apart and I wanted to reuse the wood, it was very therapeutic to take a big ball hammer and then kind of break stuff up for a little while. But it's been remarkable to me how important it was to have a place to go where I could really think about nothing else but the thing that was right in front of me. And so what I love about a project, a wood project, is that, again, for whatever reasons, once I get into it, it's typically the last thing I think about before I fall asleep, and the first thing that pops into my head when I wake up in the morning. I'm just preoccupied with it. Just last weekend, I was driving to meet a friend for a walk outside with our masks, socially distanced. And I've probably made this drive 500 times. And I found myself kind of passing a couple of barns on this road thinking, well, that's neat. I've never noticed that before. And I realized that I missed a turnoff, and it was because my head was completely lost in what the next steps of this current project is that I'm working on. So I know that you've had a program on mindfulness. And for me, being in the shop is a mindfulness experience, in part because I don't want to cut off my fingers. And so I'm paying close attention. But, you know, when I'm engaged in this, it's all I can think about. I think about kind of measurements and the next step and how different pieces of wood are going to come together. And I just find that being able to step away from whatever else is on my mind is critical in that regard. And so for me, it's been woodworking. And I hope for each of you watching, there is some version of this where you can get lost in it. I never really thought of myself as an artist, but I certainly love the artistic process. I love the idea of imagining a project from start to finish. And So here's just a sampling of some things that my wife in the bottom left wanted: a night table. And so this was a simple right angle project. When we moved into our house 5 years ago, I wanted something kind of cool. And so I made a mailbox with some copper inlay. My wife turns out to be an outdoor cat. And so she asked me for a day bed for our screened in porch. And then here's a picture right in the middle of a squirrel picnic table. And this one's for you, Danita, because I know you like that. So this was just kind of something that I whipped out in about an hour in between Zoom calls sometime over, in the spring when I thought I was going to lose my mind. Anyway, enough about that. What I'd like to do now is just take a couple of minutes and tell you about the Comprehensive Cancer Support Program that I have the great privilege of being able to lead. And I've been at UNC now for 11 years, and this didn't exist 11 years ago. So this has been like a startup and a real passion project for me, coming from the National Institutes of Health and being able to try to build something that I hope has been of great value to a lot of patients over the years. And so this on the top line here is the leadership team. Lisa Park is another psychiatrist who is the Deputy Director for Clinical Affairs. Michelle Manning is a Jill of all trades. She is an administrative genius who helps with all of our grants, all of our budgeting, all of our HR work, and basically tells me what I need to know and maybe didn't know I needed to know it at different times. And Robin Herring, who is our executive director, and they help with a group of about 33 people who work from the Cancer Support Program and are roughly divided into these following 9 areas. Most of you are familiar with the Patient Family Resource Center if you've been in the cancer hospital. It's on the ground floor. The cancer hospital was built very much with light and engagement and human connectedness in mind, which this year is kind of more important than ever, whether we're wearing masks or not. And so when you do have a chance, hopefully soon after the kind of vaccines are widely distributed and we can put this in the rear view mirror and you come into the cancer hospital, if you hadn't been there, it's just a beautiful space, the Patient Family Resource Center, which is led by Tina Shaban and which includes a lot of art, some of which Elaine has provided generously to us. And that's where we have a boutique for hats and wigs and scarves for people who may have lost their hair during cancer treatment. And in the center is named after Rodney Long and his late wife, Marianne Long. And it's just a lovely, welcoming space. Our psycho-oncology clinical service is led by Justin Yap, a psychologist. And we have inpatient and outpatient clinical services for patients. We have what I think is the leading adolescent and young adult program in the United States. This is a program that was started through the generosity of the Be Loud Sophie Foundation and the Steiner family. And it has just been an extraordinary privilege to work with a group of individuals with cancer and their family members who are very often either misunderstood or not addressed adequately. Lauren Lux leads that program. Loretta Muss has been running our cancer caregiver support program for years and just has a wonderful way of engaging people. I'm guessing that most of you on this call know Loretta and have interacted with her. She's a force of nature. Deb Mayer is a national presence in cancer survivorship and has run our cancer survivorship program for a while and even spent time at the National Cancer Institute as the acting director of the survivorship program during a critical transition period. Jennifer Spring runs our outpatient nutrition program, and we've got wonderful consultation programs as well as a supplement program that we have for patients. Cindy Rogers is a lawyer by training who runs a pro bono legal clinic and is in charge of our financial assistance program. So many of you on the call have given very generously to our financial assistance program, and we now have an endowment in the interest from that endowment goes to financial assistance for individuals whose cancer care is threatened by their financial circumstances. And we, this past year, gave out over $200,000 in gift cards and in help with paying rent and utilities and other needs that patients have had. So again, many of you who are listening have been instrumental in doing that. We take our responsibility to the people in North Carolina throughout all 100 counties very seriously, and we have a statewide engagement program and a research project. We currently have a large NCI-funded grant that I'm leading with Stephanie Wheeler from the School of Public Health, and that provides financial navigation for individuals who are experiencing what is now being termed financial toxicity from cancer care. And then finally, we have a newest and really growing, rapidly growing wellness and integrative medicine program that Carly Bailey leads. And that includes all sorts of wonderful programs like Get Real and Heal and health coaching. And we've made a dramatic shift to do that all virtually at this point. And so that's just a quick reconnaissance flight over the Comprehensive Cancer Support Program. And what I really want to emphasize to you all is that most of these services are provided free of care. And we couldn't do that without the generosity of our sponsors and benefactors. And it's been one of the great privileges of my professional careers to work with the Medical Foundation and Lineberger and so many people who give of their time and energy. And so I just wanted to say thank you on behalf of all of us in the Cancer Support Program. So I am going to pass the baton over to Elaine O'Neil, whose work I've enjoyed greatly over the years since I've been at North Carolina. And you'll get a chance to hear more from Elaine about how she kind of brings her art to the healing process in the cancer hospital. So thank you, Elaine, very much for being with us tonight. And I will stop sharing my screen now. And hopefully you can get the next one going.
Okay, well, it's my honor and pleasure to be here tonight too. And to be just the tiniest little part of all the good work that goes on at the North Carolina Cancer Hospital in Lineberger is amazing for me. And I'm thrilled just to have a tiny little part in it. Place is important to all of us. Those places that we connect to emotionally, our hometowns, our vacation times with our families, kitchens with fresh baked smells coming out of them. Those are the important things where we connect, important places. And that's what I try to portray in my work. And at the cancer hospital, I think that's important to patients to maybe take a second to look at a piece of art and remember a happy time. It's not abstract. It's kind of a quirky memory. My work's kind of about how you feel when you're at a place, not exactly how it looks. So the quirky angles and the perspective, kind of like how our memories are of a place. So that's what I try to portray in my work. And a couple of these pieces that are up right now are from past calendars that I've done. Turn It Pink in Chapel Hill was something that Lineberger did for a number of years. And this is just a fun portrayal of the town, kind of with hues of pink. The Tar Heel 10 Miler used to be a big fundraiser, or a part of it was for Lineberger. And that again was a calendar image. I created that calendar for 10 years and really wanted to do it this year too, but that is one of the things that affected me this year with the COVID-19 pandemic, is that I just had to make some tough decisions and didn't make it this year. But I'm really hoping for 2022 because I have a notebook full of ideas. I've only just gotten started. Yeah, there's another picture of the calendar from last year, the 10th calendar, where I was standing with Tom Shea, a dear friend of mine, Dr. Tom Shea, who retired last year. He is not only a family friend, but just an amazing doctor. And I think anybody who had the chance to meet him or work with him or be his patient loves him too. And then the picture on the right is a thank you gift to a donor who wanted to have her money go to immunotherapy. And that's the wonderful thing about giving, is that you can sort of say, I'd like it to go here, I'd like to go there. And this was a fun piece for me to do. I had a chance to go to the lab and see in action what goes on there, and you would not believe it. It is pretty stunning. And so that's what that piece is there, all the way from the clinic where somebody is getting infused to the lab. So that's what that image is. And another thank you gift on the left, kind of showing that atrium, that's what I call it anyway, when you're standing on the bridge looking at the cancer hospital and looking down at that beautiful place where you can relax and sort of catch your breath and meet people, meet friends, meet your family, and just kind of take nature in. So that was a gift there. And the one on the right was a gift to some donors, very generous donors. Again, kind of showing that whole, what would you call it? That whole hug from the lab to the people, from the doctors in the labs to the people of North Carolina who had this. I mean, we're so lucky in North Carolina that if cancer comes, we have a place to go to get some of the best care in the world right here in our state. And it's available to all of us in North Carolina. And then let's see if there's one more slide. Yeah, a couple more. The two on the flanking are from the calendar. The one on the right is the meditation walk. Again, an amazing thing at the cancer hospital to go outside and kind of concentrate on something else, on the steps that you're taking and the air that you're breathing. And the piece in the middle is a gift to the Capps family who have given a generous gift as well. And really is an honor of mine to be able to again, be a little part of this bigger gift that people give to the hospital, and had the chance to say thank you myself in my artwork. And I tried to come up with a little art project that I think the whole family could do. And don't feel like you need to be an artist. You can do this, I promise. So we pre-recorded a little tutorial. So I hope you like it. I think it's coming up in a minute.
So I'm going to show you today how to make some holiday cards yourself. I'm a textile artist, so everything I do is in fabric, but sometimes I use paper. And so I'm going to show you some ideas using paper and fabric to make your own custom holiday cards. So often people tell me, I can't draw, I can't sketch. So I thought I'd show you today how to do it with pretty much 3 or 4 simple shapes. A half circle or orange segment kind of shape, a circle, and a triangle. And that's all you're going to need to do these cards. So some of the materials, I've got a materials list: fabric, scraps, and paper. You can use wrapping paper or pieces of book, pages, any kind of fabric you have, an old shirt or cloth you don't want, string, glue stick is important, and some scissors. So let's get started. I've got these card blanks at one of the stores like Michael's or Walmart, and they're easy. So you could either start with that or just get some cardstock and cut it into a 5 by 7 inch card, and go from there. So I've shown one here using book pages, and it's just white on white. It's kind of pretty. So let's just start with that half circle shape. A big one and a small one. One for the body, one for the head. So that'll be out of paper, and then I'll do one out of just fabric for some texture, and I'm going to do a medium one. And I probably need another one for the beak. Let me get some black while we're here. As you can see, I have every color you might ever want of fabric behind me. So I'm going to use black. I'm just going to cut a little beak out. Again, a triangle. Now, glue stick is the magic. Instead of sewing, we'll use glue stick. If you have a sewing machine, you can do that too. But take your, get it right up to the edge, your half circle. And here's my card. Put that sort of at an angle and use my fingers almost like an iron to press that down, just like you would glue anything down. Then we'll add the head, the smaller half circle. Not so hard. And the fabric wing. And you can decide which angle you want the wing to go. I sort of have mine going up. And this is that glue stick that's purple at the beginning, and then when it dries, it turns clear. So don't worry that it's purple right now. It won't be always. I'm going to add the beak. And what I did on this card for fun is, you know how doves kind of hold some laurel leaves or something? I have this little piece of boxwood or whatever you have out in your yard. So I think I'll just have the beak hold the boxwood. So I'm going to put the beak over the boxwood. It's a little tricky. Like that. So the only thing left really would be a tail, tail feathers. So if this is where the triangles come in, 2 or 3 triangles. Add those for a tail. Where'd it go? And if you want to add a little eye, you can do that with a Sharpie. An upside down little shape or a dot. It's kind of peaceful that way. You could do 2 feet coming out the back, and you could write a little message like peace across the bottom, and there you have a card. Put a little piece of string at the top if you want, just to add another little razzle dazzle on there. So it's simple, and you can see that you could do it with a cardinal, same sort of thing. I added a little hand sewing around the bottom edge just for something different. I did this one and I sewed it down. I started with this piece of wrapping paper, and I kind of like this effect. This wrapping paper is all wrinkly because I didn't store it very well last year. So then I just decided, well, I like those wrinkles. So I'm going to add more. Start with a new card. Get a lot of glue on this. Center it. And my work is really wonky. Nothing is really straight. So that works to my benefit on these kind of projects. So I just started with the wrapping paper and then did the same bird, but in red this time. I added a sequin at the bottom, stitched a line down to show that it's an ornament he's holding in his beak. You could do that again with Sharpie if you don't have a sewing machine. So that's a bird using those shapes. A tree, of course, is another Christmas icon, and we've seen a million cards with trees, but they're so simple and effective. I started this one with kind of a starry sky fabric, and if you have pinking shears, it adds a nice kind of zigzaggy edge. So I'll just show you that quickly. It'll be the same technique as the sparkly paper. I'm just going to glue this down to the cardstock and then lay my scene on top of it. So these are kind of different scissors. They have a zigzaggy tooth on them that cuts the edges this way. So again, I'm just going to do this quickly because you know this process. But this is a fun way to add texture and add the fabric effect to your cards. I'm going to use some of this fabric that I had printed at one point and just cut. Not making any patterns. I know what a triangle looks like. They don't have to all be the same shape. Your kids can do this with you. It's just really, really fun. So there would be your trees. If you want to have a little bit of snowy land underneath, once again, cut your half circle, a more shallow one this time. One tree can go on top of the circle for something different. And then I always like to put a moon in my sky, so I'm just going to cut a circle and then cut a little wedge out of it and glue that on. Then you kind of have a wintry scene. I did this one with that sparkly wrapping paper, the front side and the back side, and used different size triangles, and I stitched down the middle. If you don't have a sewing machine, you certainly can glue it down. And I just cut the piece of fabric with regular scissors, and I kind of liked that it was unraveling along the edge. It just adds a nice little effect and something that kind of shows that it's handmade. So simple, and this is kind of a retro look, but you can do it. And then the last one, I thought I should do something for the Tar Heels. I know you all love Ramesses, and I do too. So this one, you know how to do the background now. And instead of we can start with a circle to do Ramesses' head. Let's see if you can see that. So here we have a circle, then we're just going to take a little wedge off one side, a little wedge off the other, and there you have his head. You can add the 2 half circles for his ears. And you can place these however you want. Maybe you want them sticking up, maybe one up and one down. Maybe every card you have is different. They each have their own little personalities. So we'll just stick that over here so that you can see the contrast. And then the little spiral horns, let's see, let me pull a different glue out. Cut 2 circles, and I would just put the 2 pieces of fabric or 2 pieces of, let me get my fabric scissors here, of paper together and cut them at the same time. Maybe not exact circles, but you get the idea. And if you want, you could use a pencil to kind of draw a little spiral shape for you to follow when you're cutting out. In my house, and probably yours if you have anybody who sews, you're not supposed to use the paper scissors or the fabric scissors for paper because it dulls them. So I have, I'll show you so many cans of scissors over here because I don't always do what I say to do. But okay, so here are the two spirally horns for Ramesses. Maybe a little big for this card. But I think you get the general idea. Let's put them on something that is a little easier to see. Let's see, so how about you have one up and one down? Oh, maybe we won't have that one. I have them down because this spiral's pretty fat at the, here it is. Well, it looks good already. What are we missing? We're missing a little triangle for the nose. Got glue on my hands. Two circles for the eyes. And if you want to add the little eyelids, that's fun too. Let's see, we'll make them out of green just for something different. It's funny doing it upside down here. Let's see if he's going to be. He looks pretty fierce there. So there you have Ramesses. Add some string, some twine if you want. Just have fun with it. The people who get these are going to love them. One other thing that you can do, I mentioned sequins before. Sequins are always fun. Glitter is always fun. Moms and dads don't always like glitter. This I used just an ink pad and the bottom of a cork to add some polka dots. Just have fun. Spend the whole weekend doing it. Just get lost in creativity. And I think that kind of wraps it up. Thanks so much.
Welcome back, everyone. Oh my, what a treat. You two are Chapel Hill gems. So we just enjoyed that so much, and I can tell that our audience did too. We got lots of great comments from some artists in our audience as well. So audience, now is your time to ask questions. So please put those in the chat. And we did have some questions sent to us before, so we'll get started with those. Just with both of you, with your careers and your hobbies and your families and all of the things that have been going on, how do you find time for your art? Elaine, for you, it's a career, but still probably more challenging in this time. And Dawn, for you, a hobby in addition to your career. So I think our audience would love to hear how you've made time to still create and how you've been able to create in such a stressful environment. So,
Do you want to take that first, Elaine?
Sure, I'll take it first. You know, I work by myself every day. So sort of being quarantined or shut at home or whatever wasn't a new thing for me, in that I kind of come up here to my studio every day by myself. But I did find myself unable to concentrate, kind of like a bee buzzing around the flowers in a garden, kind of start this, stop that, what, and just so much in my head of uncertainty, you know, just nothing really that I could pin down as concrete. So I'm a runner and I love to be outside and I garden, and I found just being outside and sort of fresh air in my face made a big difference. Once, probably 6 weeks went by, I started a project illustrating a new children's book. It's called Violet Stands Tall, and it's available now in stores, but it was a real challenge. It was hard and something new for me. And I think for me, having to kind of like what you said, when you go to your workshop, you have to concentrate on your measurements and on the saw, not cutting your finger, only the wood. That's sort of how I really had to think hard about each sketch and kind of design idea I came up with. So that's kind of what I've done the last 6 months, work on that book.
I've had to make an adaptation to my time in the shop during this time, meaning projects can be all consuming. And if I wait until I have big chunks of time, then months will go by and I won't do anything. It's a little bit like writing. You know, earlier in my career, I felt like I had to carve out a whole day or a half a day even just to get some writing done. And over the years, I've figured out that you can get a lot done working in shorter chunks of time. So even if I only have 20 minutes, I may go downstairs and lay out a project and not get into it. Or, you know, so it becomes a more of woven into the fabric of my daily schedule a little bit more, because otherwise I kind of stay away from it, waiting for large amounts of time that don't typically happen. And so if for me, it's just a matter of getting lost for a little while in something else, and then I can step back to the work that I'm doing.
very helpful, I think, to have that. Dr. Rosenstein, another question we had received was about comprehensive cancer support. And we're so grateful, and our audience members so grateful we have that resource for cancer patients. I mean, all of us now feel so stressed and so challenged, but for cancer patients, they're already facing that. And now COVID is layered on top of that, the stress and anxiety of cancer. And the associated job loss, additional financial struggles that many people are facing during COVID. And we're interested in hearing how the financial assistance program has been challenged and maybe stretched a bit during this time.
Yeah. There's no way to put a shiny coat of paint on this. It's been really, really hard in all sorts of ways for people this year. And just on one of your earlier points, one of the things that's been so heartbreaking is the social isolation that has come for so many people, with the physical distancing that's necessary, with the restrictions on visitors in the hospital. And that's, having some connection with people that you care about is so important to healing. So that's been tough. On the financial side, that's been really hard too. And there, in our work with financial toxicity and financial navigation, we keep track of the local and regional and national programs that are set up to help people in various ways. And it's been a hard year for fundraising for lots and lots of organizations, with so many people out of work. And so all I can tell you is that there are, the work continues. And I think that the people that I'm talking to most feel like they've got a long view on this. And, you know, nobody's experienced this before. And, you know, human beings are not built for crisis day in and day out for over a year, but that's kind of what we need to do. But I really do think most people can see beyond this. And especially now with the good news about the vaccines, I really do think that it's easier to picture, even though it's going to take a little bit longer than we want for kind of life to get back to normal or something closer to normal before too long. So I think that the mentality has to be, we have to weather this as best we can. We got to do the most we can with what we've got. I have to tell you, what's been really interesting is that what the pandemic has done for our access to care, for supportive care services, in a matter of days and weeks, we haven't been able to do in this country in decades, and that is make access more available to patients through telephones, computers, kind of virtual connectedness. I truly hope that doesn't go away. I'm sure we're going to end up with kind of a hybrid model going forward, because a lot of people find it much more convenient to kind of go into a quiet room and then tune in, rather than have to extend a day much longer, instead of going from an infusion or radiation oncology and then to another clinic. I think, you know, that's been really good. So there are some adaptive things that have come out of this, and we're gonna get through it. But it's hard, you know. It's we'll have to wait and see kind of what our largest fundraising campaign is going to be like this year, because everything was disrupted.
Thank you.